And the knock-on effect, if we get it right for those with additional needs, is those without them have a much better time. Yeah, it works right across the level, because if you're the kid without additional needs in the room full of kids that can't cope because their needs aren't being met, you're not going to go, well, hey, it's time to go to church, are you? So what I want you to think about, okay, is your perception of how you see it when you come into church. Okay, just hold that thought for a minute. I've got a little practical demonstration that's going to go on, okay, because my perception, okay, I've been coming to this church for a very long time. When we first came, our children were 1 and 4, they're now 19 and 16, so, you know, it's been quite a long time decision for us. And when I come here, I'm very at home with being here. I've got people here that I really hold in very high regard, like family. And I'm completely comfortable with what I'm expecting here, but I'm not on the spectrum. And that's what makes that different. Okay, so my practical demonstration, okay, Richard here has very kindly stepped in because I had asked Paul to help me, but he forgot to turn up tonight. So what they're going to do, they're going to start at the back of the room, and Richard blindfolded with Beck's support is... Yeah, I didn't think through the logistics of that, sorry. With Beck's support, it's going to try and get to the front of the room where I've laid out a beautiful printed donkey from the internet, which they're going to try and cut out. Okay, so there will be other people that are going to get involved in this demonstration too. Yeah, but you're not the one wearing the blindfold anymore. Well, you ask him how he'd like you to guide him, because you can talk to him to guide him and see what you can do. Without cutting your hands off, yeah, because there is a donkey printed on here, just to... Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Round of applause. So Richard, tell me you're not asthmatic. Tell us about how you felt. Go on, have the mic for a minute.
I felt very annoyed by certain people. No, it was really hard to tune in.
Yeah.
And particularly when stuff about eating and rock climbing came into the mix. And so, yeah.
Thank you very, very much. A very good sport. So, that was my aim, as you might have gathered, just to get you thinking about what sensory overload feels like. Yeah, because that was my plan. A child comes into church, they know what they're expecting, they know what they think you want to do, and then they see lights, smells, sounds. In fact, primary school children are the stinkiest creatures in the whole of humanity. You know, if you want a selection of bad smells in a room, just fill it with a bunch of 8 and 9-year-olds and you're on to a winner every time. Yeah. And for these children, quite often by the time they've got into the group and they've sat down, they're already feeling a little bit funny. Anyway, let's look at some of the stuff I've got. Is my PowerPoint there, Sean? Awesome. I'm not very good at this technology bit. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background, okay. So ASD was only first a thing in the 80s. Okay, it's been around forever. There is good historical evidence that suggests people like Albert Einstein, Alan Turing, if they'd lived later in life, they would have been diagnosed on the spectrum, okay? It's an umbrella term. It covers a huge range. Social communication difficulties often comes hand in hand with sensory processing problems, and sometimes this then manifests in the, children like repetitive behaviours. They'll do that. And it's usually diagnosed in childhood. It usually is. It wasn't until very recently. Yeah, but the chances are, if you're working with one of the younger primary age children, you may well have a child in there who has not yet been diagnosed. Yeah. It gets easier as they get older in a lot of respects because they learn to deal with it themselves. They learn how to regulate. They learn to do all of that. Okay, so it's an umbrella term. They reckon that 1%, bit more, of the UK population are on the autistic spectrum. If you go to certain places, I think you'd find a higher percentage. If you went to where Andy goes to work, pretty much 80% of them at least are on the spectrum. It all depends. So it is interesting. So we've just done the starter. What we're looking at with the kids' work, moving it forwards, at the moment we know of at least 5 children who are on the spectrum in our church. Realistically, there's more than that. There's going to be. Sometimes parents are a bit reticent about telling you. Sometimes they're worried about how well you'll support their child. Okay, our vision is really, as a youth team, that all the kids can know and access the love of Jesus regardless of their need. Yeah, we're not going to make it so coming to church is an ordeal, so you can't get there. Yeah, church needs to be a real safe and welcoming place for everybody. And, that's something I really strongly believe in. So, there we go. I did a little bit of interviewing before I talk to you. I'll just stand to one side so you can see. So I've got 2 things to show you, okay? Jacob was very kind and he sent me some answers to these questions. And Joshua, Sarah Speller's little lad, was brilliant. He's actually sent a video that I'll show you in a minute, okay? So the questions I asked, and I knew what I was expecting to see, are what are the best parts of Church and Live Wires and what would you change? If there were 3 things you'd want an adult working with you to know, what would they be? Where in the church do you feel calmest and happiest? What is your favourite sound? I was expecting the answer, nothing. I'm not going to lie, I was expecting, noise to be an issue because Kingsland is a noisy place. Are there noises you don't like? Would knowing what was going to happen next help you enjoy Sunday school more? And anything else you'd like to say that, I could tell people that would make things better for you, make it a better experience. So these are Jacob's responses. And the best part of church for him was seeing his friends and relaxing, which is a lovely thing about community. What would you change? I find noise tricky. If there are 3 things you wanted an adult working with you to know, what would they be? I'm quite quiet in groups. I just want to listen, not answer. And I can't think of anything else. I like that bit, that's why I put it in. Yeah, that's a real key thing, because as people leading a group, the tendency can be to want to draw everybody in. And actually there are some children for whom they'd rather sit and think on it. They'd rather do it in their own time. And actually, if you back off, if you give them that free rein, then actually one day they will surprise you. They absolutely will. They'll suddenly say something and you go, oh wow, thank you Lord, they've got this, Where in the church do you feel calmest and happiest? For Jacob, that was the cafe. What's your favourite sound? I don't have one. Are there noises you don't like? Loud noises in the kids' work? Yeah. Would knowing what was going to happen next help you enjoy Sunday school more? Yes. Anything else you'd like me to share to make things better for you? Now, this was interesting because Jacob's idea was in your groups you might want to start a signal to show the noise is too much. Yeah, I'm assuming he would be up for a subtle signal, you know. Yeah. That might be a policy that we could build across the groups. That actually, you know, if it's too much, you could do whatever works for you. You know, I'm not going to prescribe that, am I? That's not that. Anyway, that was Jacob. Joshua did a video. Joshua speaks quite well for himself. What I want you to think, when you watch Joshua's video, tell me afterwards what there is about it that tells you you're watching a child with additional needs. Okay, you have a look. I'm not going to tell you because I think you'll be able to see, but he is quite articulate and he does explain his thoughts quite well.
Okay, Joshua, I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay. So, Joshua, can you tell me what the best parts of church or being at Live Wires or Holiday Club are for you?
Probably the games, I think.
Okay, anything else?
When people don't scream, that's always nice.
Okay. What would you like to change, do you think?
Well, the music that they usually play in church is extremely loud.
Okay.
Way too loud.
Okay. If there were 3 things you want an adult working with you to know, what would they be?
I don't like very sudden changes. I don't handle very well with loud noises, and I'd probably need a place to calm down if I got angry or sad or something like that.
Okay. Where in the church do you feel the calmest or happiest? Is there a place in the church that you think is quite quiet?
Not really.
Okay. What's your favourite sound at church?
Silence.
Okay. Silence or quiet?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there noises that you don't like? I think you've said this before, haven't you?
Yes. I don't like really loud music. I don't like loud singing and definitely not screaming.
Okay. Would knowing what was going to happen next help you enjoy Sunday school better?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Can you say why?
I don't know, just because then, like, I don't need to like wait to see what we're doing, and like, if I know what I'm going to be doing there before I even leave the house, then I can make a final decision of if I want to go or not.
Okay, that's good. And what if things were to change really suddenly? How do you handle that?
I'd probably get quite annoyed if, like, the thing that had changed was really good,
Okay.
like a really fun game, and suddenly we had to play, like, my least favourite game ever.
Okay, so you'd like to know if things change?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share to make things even better for you?
I don't think so.
No, I think you've covered everything, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So what are your thoughts watching Joshua? What are your thoughts? How can we see straight away that's a little lad with an additional need? No. Yeah. Yeah. And did you see his leg? All the time. There was that restless, that restless energy. And what he said I found quite interesting, because as I say, I was expecting both the children I interviewed to mention the noise, because for most of the children I've come across in the time here with that, the noise is a thing at Kingston's, it's a big thing. Yeah, but for most of them as well, the other element you get with children with these sort of additional needs is they like to know what's going to happen. It gives them a feeling of control. And actually, if you take that feeling of control away from them in an environment that's got a few sensory stressors there anyway, that's when things go a little bit wrong. Yeah, and that's a bit about what we've been considering. So, you know, early intervention is the key. When you work with these children, it's in everybody's interest, yours, the other kids in the group, yeah. Avoiding sensory overload is a good thing to do. That's my biggest understatement of the evening. It's not fun for anyone concerned. The child feels dreadful. You as the leader trying to calm the child down don't feel great, like you're having a great time, and youth work is what you want. So signs that you might see include movement. We saw Joshua's leg, didn't we, in that video? We really did. A restlessness that increases. Yeah, the movement can be repetitive. You might actually get a child with their hands over their ears. You might do that. You get them chewing on their clothes. Yeah, I've met kids in school rather than here where, you know, they eat their school jumpers. And it's just like, wow, that's not great. Hair twiddling or pulling out, that can all be there. So this is, you know, it's not an exhaustive list by any stretch, but they're quite easy to spot. Yeah, if you're looking for something straightforward that you can see. And this, I've got another little bit of video for you. This was actually created by the National Autistic Society, and these are some grown-ups talking about their experience of sensory issues. So I thought it was worth a quick look to.
You know when you press, like your computer's being really slow, and you press like the mouse repeatedly on this one thing, and you just get, eventually it just like goes, right, I can't take it anymore, gonna crash, bye. It's like that, I think, when it gets to, like, say, sensory overload.
It's loud sound, and especially frequent loud sound, like a long beep, like a long high-pitched beep. That sort of goes in one ear and it sort of rattles inside your head, and it's like, I just want to run away. I just want to run away. Yeah.
Babies crying is the one thing I can't do.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's the one thing.
I love babies, but man, but when they cry,
it's like it could be like really quiet, and then suddenly, like as you said, like the baby's crying, and that's all I can concentrate on. Like I can't distract myself from it unless I have something that will literally block out, let's say, putting it in my headphones.
And I also think a lot of the time it can be those unexpected sounds that can be hardest. Because I can be in an environment quite, like I don't have any problem on planes, even though they're really loud, because it's exactly the sound you expect to happen. But when it's like, for example, the honk of a car or a bus can be really shocking because you're not expecting that to come.
It's like getting punched in the chest.
Yeah.
An unexpected loud noise.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just go and sit somewhere where you know I expect people won't come and talk to me.
I tend to stim. I've heard that like stimming can sort of, well, I don't know if other people do it, but I know myself, I do that with my fingers.
I'd get made fun of at school for stimming. And like stimming's so important. I think for everyone that does it. Like if I wasn't allowed to stim, I'd probably explode.
Autistic people are going to react in different ways to certain things, but it's great to have people who are just understanding, and even if they don't know that much about autism, just asking, you know, what is it I need to do to help you cope? You know, do I need to take you out into like a quiet, calm room where there's not much going on? Or just, even if I was to say like, oh, I don't want anyone around me right now, you know.
A lot of adults just try not to either laugh at me or just try not to stare at me, but sometimes I get some kids that no malice behind it, they just want to ask questions. They ask, why are you doing that? They don't want to laugh, they just want to learn.
People do want to at least have some understanding, but I sometimes feel that if they ask questions, they feel like they're being intrusive and like kind of invading your privacy of like how it affects you. But I feel like it's better to actually have an understanding and ask questions, because then you know sort of what to expect from them.
If you're clapping your hands, if you're jumping up and down, try not to draw attention to it. Leave them alone, give them some space, you know, don't give eye contact. Just leave them be and allow them to come to their own sort of devices, because if you just throw 101 questions at them and you know, it's just fire with fire, you're not going to get anywhere.
You know, if someone's making these really loud noises and they can see that I'm getting stressed or overwhelmed, and they have a little bit, they may only have the tiniest knowledge of autism, but they can see that there's a link, and then maybe they'll think to say, excuse me, can you turn your music down, please? Or excuse me, can you stop having that loud conversation?
Sometimes you can't do it on your own. You know, you need some help, even people that you don't know, like strangers. And people, like when your mother said to you when you're younger, don't talk to strangers. Sometimes the strangers can be really, really helpful if they've got that sort of understanding.
Any thoughts from that? I thought it was interesting to hear from the four of them, because it was all slightly different, wasn't it? And that's the thing to bear in mind as well. There's no, you know, absolute formula for how, you know, there's just things you can try. Different things work with different people. Really do. And what one of them said towards the end about, you know, people offering to help, that makes all the difference. Yeah, if you offer to help someone because they're feeling overwhelmed with 76,000 questions, you're probably not as effective as, you know, you were hoping. But for someone who's feeling like they're struggling, actually a friendly kind of way, word, and someone knowing that someone's on their side is a really big step with it. So there you go. There's just a few thoughts on de-escalating someone that's losing the plot a little bit and struggling. What can we do? Early intervention, earlier the better, because it's very, very hard if you try to bring someone back from kind of full-blown, oh, I'm having a meltdown, I really can't handle it anymore. Distraction is my personal favourite. Yeah, with all the kids I've worked with, actually, if you talk about something completely random that you know they're interested in, sometimes it just works. My friend's boy, I was coming back with them, and he'd lost the plot at the Free Family Fun Festival a couple of years ago. And we were in the car and it was hot, and I just said to him, I said, do you know how the air conditioning works in the car? And he was there. It gave that way out, yeah? Or give them something really simple that you know they like doing, some sort of repetitive task, okay? It will be different from child to child. Remove the sensory pressure. Whatever's upset them, you want to take that away. That's got to be. Giving the child time and space to unwind, and often it needs moving to a different location. Would you like to come here? Would you like to be with me? You know, this sort of thing. Don't put any demands on them. Do what they want to do at that point. And the other thing we're looking at, because I know there are some in the church, but I don't know if they've got as far as your group, is fiddle toys in the primary groups. Yeah, because for a lot of the movement is really key. So if you know you've got someone who might lose it a little bit, and they've got something to sit and play with, they've got something to focus on, haven't they? So what I did with the next bit, because hearing me talk all night isn't what you need, is I've got 3 little scenarios. And what I want you to do, in the little groups you're sitting in, I'm just going to give you a few minutes, read through the scenario, chat about what you would do. Okay, there's no right answers. I mean, there's a few outright wrong ones, but you know, there's no guaranteed right answer. And then tell us what you would do. All right, so feel free. You kind of, we've got 3 tables going on, haven't we? Have a little chat with the people around you. What would you do? You're leading adventurers. I picked one of the primary groups. You have a child who attends regularly but doesn't really participate. Child gets upset when games are played and there is movement around the room. This shows itself as aggression. So what would you do at that point, because you've got a duty of care to the other kids, but what would you do to turn it around for that child as well? So I'll leave that with you for a couple of minutes. So do go for it, do talk. I'll put the mic down. Okay then, let's hear back. See what you decided. Okay, let's start over here. Someone talk on your table. Yeah. 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 Giving choices is always a good move. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that is key. When you get challenging behaviour and you're trying to run a group, it's hard. But the bottom line is probably 9.5 times out of 10, that challenging behaviour is there because that child can't cope. It's not a conscious decision that, they hate you and they're trying to make you miserable. It's really not. So yeah, giving them back a bit of control where you can is always good. This middle table seemed quite busy as well. Go on, someone tell me something about that. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, or timer, or yeah. No, that's good. I like that too. That's, yeah. 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 Yeah, you think on your feet at that point and you give them two choices. They feel they're in control. Both choices are actually your choice and not involving, doing it themselves or anyone else any damage, but they feel like they've got control. Yeah, because you've got those two choices going. The table at the far side, you got anything to add? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Because if you get them involved at the start, it gives them confidence that you know how to handle it. But it's nice to get them involved for a fixed period so they don't feel when they come to church they've got to spend their whole time looking after the child they look after 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So it is, I mean, the parents are the best at knowing what will work for their child because they live with them. They absolutely do. They know, where when everybody else's child has put their shoes on in the morning to go to school and their autistic child is standing on the stairs going, no, I won't wear socks today, it's little things. I mean, the lad I teach, his mum said she was ever so funny. He's 16 on Sunday, and she said teenage rebellion looks so different in a neurotypical teenager. She said, because with an autistic one, it can be something like, no, I don't think I will wear pants anymore. And it's something completely bizarre that they've just decided to control, whereas, neurotypical teenagers just get hormonal and grumpy. But it is, the parents are, fantastic people to work directly with. But it's a nice gift to be able to give them as well, to say after 2 or 3 weeks, we think we've got this, you go and enjoy the service. So that's all good. I've got a couple more. So I made it a little bit more difficult because the younger the child with additional needs, the harder they can be to deal with. So this next one, we're aiming for a very young group with someone probably not diagnosed. This child doesn't fit in. Frequently fidgets, moves around, does not interact with other children, squeal whenever they hear loud noises, and prefer to sit under the table. I've actually met a child like this in a school once. They do not make eye contact with anybody at all. How could you move things on for them? So let me give you a couple of minutes with that, see if there's anything you do differently. All right? The sharp corners, I think. You can take a variety of views on it, because the next thing about it over it. What's he hanging in the phone? Sitting under the table. Jesus was buried in a tomb. Let's be in the tomb, please. There is, yeah. Okay, so tell me some of your thoughts. Tell me some of your thoughts. Let's go the other way round this time. Let's start on the far side of the room with Lindsay, Beth, and then Kingsley. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's very valid, and doing it from a safe distance as well, because if you get under the table with the wrong child, that can go wrong, can't it, if they're not... Being fair, I have, but I was in my 20s, so I haven't done it for a little while. Yeah, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Middle table, did you want to add? Yeah. Yeah.
Like having some objects there that they can play with, or even encourage them to bring something of their own.
Yeah.
So they've got something that they can play with, book, toy, or whatever. So there's something there that they're comfortable with, that they can look forward to using. But it doesn't lock them away or keep them isolated from everybody else. Because I was talking about Jacob used to do that when he was upset. He used to go and hide underneath the kitchen table.
Mm.
So not often, but just when he got really upset. And one of the things that used to prevent him from coming out was he would be anxious that people would then ask him what he was doing under the table. Because obviously he was now not under the table
Mm.
anymore. So people would be asking him questions. And so he'd stay there longer to avoid having to answer the questions, because that made him more anxious.
Yeah.
Whereas if he was in a different area where he felt safe, that he could play with, or in his bedroom, he could emerge from there when he thought,
Yeah, when he was ready. Yeah, yeah.
it was less
Yeah.
to find him distinct. So having an area where he can go to and feel safe is
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah, no, that's very valid. Would you guys like to add anything?
Kind of said a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
What we talked more about was being prepared, because you need to know the children, is kind of what we were saying, because that scenario for one child could end well for the it, or terribly for the it, depending on the child under the table. And firstly, we've got a young, one of our girls at Castanina, and she's 30-odd, and she'll still sit under the table if she's overwhelmed. And because we know her, we know that we can join her under the table, and if we copy what it is she's doing with her hands, she focuses on what you're doing with your hands, and she'll come out with us. One of our volunteers just gets under there and it's like, Chloe, do you want to come out? She'd give you a smack like you'd get kicked. But we've got 22 young people like that, and they'd all respond
Yeah.
differently, and it's the same here. And if you don't know the child, you don't really. So we talked a little bit about how we can prepare as kind of volunteers and helpers.
Yeah.
How we can manage.
It's something we want to look at, because when we finish, and it isn't very much longer at all, the action points, I feel very much that as teams that work with the children, we need to consolidate what we know and share information within that team better. Yeah, I mean, I've started the process with the older group by trying to get people to talk to each other on WhatsApp, and some of us do, don't we, Charlene? Some of us do, not everybody yet, but you know, try and mark us too, yeah. But yeah, we're trying to consolidate it so that information is shared, so you do not feel when you come in after your 6 weeks off or whatever it is that you've no idea what's going on and the needs of the children you're working with. So I've got one more quick scenario. I thought we'd have an older one as well. Okay, this one's of secondary age, okay? They sit very quietly all of the time, which is basically most of the youth of the church on a Sunday morning, to be fair. They don't make eye contact. They do not choose to talk to their peers, but they sometimes talk to themselves quite loudly, which can be semi-off-putting. To be fair, you find out one day they have a random detailed knowledge of Greek history and some elements of written Greek. What would you do? Is there anything you could do to get them to integrate a little bit better? I'll give you a minute or two to think about that. Handling an older child that's more self-aware, so harder to trick than a 7-year-old. So is there anything you'd do? lived in Romford, West Ham were terrible. That's peer pressure for you. I heard you offered to lead a youth session in peer pressure. Mistake one. This microphone makes noise if you fidget. Don't give it to someone on there. Okay, so let's start with the middle group this time. Go on. Did you have any thoughts? Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah, yeah. 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 No, of course they're not, because no one would they? Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true. And you have to handle it carefully as well, because as we were saying over here, if you stand up in front of your group and go, hey kids, next week we'll do Greek history, then you're going to have like 15 teenagers that are going to stay in bed the following Sunday morning. You can almost guarantee it, can't you? It's like, wow, that sounds great. You know, sign me up. It's not going to be a thing. It's not going to be a thing. Would you like to add anything on the far side? Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's excellent. We had a random Hebrew Bible on the back desk for a while, which caught many a person who'd forgotten their Bible and thought they'd borrow it. It's a good thing to have some sort of, because actually, if you can do something slightly out of the ordinary like that, it could be the start of them being seen as cool. Yeah, if I take you back a few years, and it was quite a lot of years, because there was someone in the youth group whose mum is German, okay, and he spoke in German, and a particular girl who was in the group at that time just looked at him, and he was very quiet, he didn't say a great deal, and a particular girl that was in the group that at that time period, who was fairly loud and outspoken and didn't often think before she started speaking, went, wow, you speak German, you're so cool. And he looked at her like she was nuts and went, my mum is German. So, but it actually, for a minute, you watched actually the impact on his self-esteem that someone had interacted really quite positively with him. He was a bit confused as to why that was cool, but it's all good. Did you want to add anything here?
We were saying largely the same thing about using that knowledge and handing it over to them, whether it's a whole session or part of the session. But something we didn't talk about that I'd probably add is with the calling out, with the child's consent, talking to the rest of the group about it and making sure that they're okay and they're not going to give them the side eye because they think it's a bit weird or whatever. We had a class I taught once, there was a girl in direct
Yeah.
That's just her. I mean, none of that's inappropriate in this scenario, but hopefully. But I think them just knowing each other helps as well.
Yeah, and that's always good as well if you've got people that are less keen to participate. If you get like icebreaker that's not in your face type stuff going, that can be good. Anyway, just to finish up, what we're looking to do this autumn, okay, we are looking, okay, for a variety of things. Okay, so we're looking to create a safe space that is staffed every Sunday morning, and I'm up for it being staffed both services. I'm working on that one. Obviously we need the staff to do that, but that's my view. We're going to use the prayer room space because that's quite comfortable, and my idea in there is there's going to be bean bags, there might be a few toys that are quiet to play with, okay. There also, I know Beck and Sean have been looking, there will be ideally a floating member of your team there. So if you've been in a group with only 2, there will be 3. Okay. I would like to see fidget toys in all the primary age groups. You can feed back to me afterwards as to how many already have them, because I did buy some a couple of years ago, but I don't know where they are. Are they? Okay, that's cool. But the other thing I want you to think on, and this I also want your feedback on, is we're considering, given the feedback we had from both Jacob and Joshua, okay, we'd like to standardise the elements that are going to go on each Sunday morning. I'm not telling you how to do what you do. Yeah, I'm not at all. Safe space, there you go. That's that. We'll talk about that first. Okay, the idea is in this room, the service will be streamed there. So if you are there managing that room for us that week, you will not be staring at the walls waiting for a child to come and play. You will have the option of buying into the service if you want to. Okay, if you need that safe space used, the floating member of your team needs to go with the child to the room where there will be someone else waiting. That way our ratios are covered, because there will be 2 people. Okay, I would suggest within your groups you decide how long that child will go out for, because to a certain extent the child needs to dictate that, but you can get children who decide they really, really like it and would like to be there for an hour and a half, you know, and ideally we'd like them to try the main group first, okay. So yeah, that will be up to you. Visual timetables, okay, will give those children a clear idea of what they are expecting to happen, because for a lot of them anxiety happens when there's a sudden change. And you're dealing with sensory pressures anyway, because you're in a room with, you know, noisy, smelly other children, and that's all issue. So, you know, I was just doing guesswork because I work with the big kids and we don't do a snack ever, really. We feed them sweets and, you know, unhealthy things when we're playing games. It's fine. All right, so that's just a suggestion, not an exhaustive list. If you've got a primary age group, you might have, yeah?
On that, I think for a while in Bubbles, there was a kind of chart with some Velcro.
Oh, okay.
Where it was, you could change the order of
Okay.
so you kind of put the tick against when the game was.
Okay, yeah. No, that's exactly the sort of thing I'm thinking about. So, okay. I'll just spend their youth budget. They won't mind. They'll be fine. I'll just do that. You tell me what you want, and I'll get them to buy it for you. It'll be okay. So. Yeah. Yeah, so that was just my idea. Your groups might look different to that. You might not have those in, but I'm sure everyone does something with the Bible at some point, and that was the one I was confident of. All right, so what I want you to do for me after this, okay, so talk to the other members of your team with the group you work with, okay, and talk to us about the standard elements that are going to be in each week. Okay, and I want that feedback. I'm date stamping it because I don't like people giving you targets that are airy-fairy and you're like, yeah, but when do you want to know that? I want to know that by the end of September. All right? If you feel when you've listened to this tonight, you'd really like to kind of reach out and pitch in and help out to this, think about whether you want to manage that room for me. Yeah, whether you want to be in there and, you know, facilitating that safe space. It wouldn't be every week. I'm not saying, you know, sign up, go in there. You can never come into a church service ever again in the whole of your life. I'm not at all. So, yeah, talk to me about that. Visual timetables, we want to know, you know, would you like one? We will buy you one, won't we, Beck? Well, that's fine. I'll find you a link tomorrow. It's fine. All right. But equally, any other resources, fiddle toys, anything like that you think you need, get back to us and get back to us by the end of this month. All right. Because what we want a kind of standardisation right across all the groups. First service, second service. Yeah. I want this facility open in the first service because I'm not telling children they can't come to church at 9:15 if they've got sensory needs. It's not, you know, you have to get up later, because that's not how that works at all. Anyway, anything at all you think you need, I'd like these guys, I'm happy for you to have my email address. If you don't have it, please talk to me about it, because I'm happy to help with the facilitation of it, because it's just really something God's laid on my heart, that as a church for far too long, the kind of mentality has been, if your special needs child has a problem, you have to deal with it. And actually, my view is, if your special needs child has a problem, God loves them. God wants them to feel at peace in our church. God wants them to feel a welcome part of his family. And that's our job to facilitate as the youth team. Yeah. What I don't want is for anybody to go away who's leading a group and feel completely unsupported. You're really not. All right? It's totally fine. If you find yourself in a position where you're in a group and, you know, the child's behaving strangely and you don't know what to do about it, and I'm around, grab me, I'll come and watch. Yeah? We are on your side. We are here to facilitate this, and we want a really good experience for all children. Yeah, because if you're safe and you're happy and you're welcome in church, then you're going to realise God loves you far more than if it's a massive source of stress for you every Sunday morning. Does that make sense? You know, if anyone has any questions, feel free to fire them away. I'm willing to give a go or use Google and get back to you if they're hard. Any questions, anything at all? Because that's just about all I've got to say. So, go on. Yeah. 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 It'd be nice if that was on the registration info, wasn't it? When they first come to the... Yeah. That might be quite nice in the prayer room as a space, because because I raised this about 2 years ago, and Davey's concern was that the entire group would want to sit in the sensory tent, which is but if it's in the space they go to anyway, it's less of an issue, isn't it? It's needs to be dark. I bet you bought a pretty yellow one, haven't you? Yeah. Quality. Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else? Anything? Anyone?
You said earlier about the noise students. I think that's one of the key things that the people need to be aware of is how that noise
Yeah.
impacts. So I know that we've kind of got our secret code with Jacob that if it's too loud, he
Yeah.
can do a signal. But he's got something similar at school where he just has to turn over his reading book in a certain way and know that it's getting too loud.
Yeah.
Do we need to think about something that's consistent across the group so that all of the leaders know if there's somebody in the group that wants to
Yeah. I think that's a very good idea. That is a very good idea. I mean, maybe actually it'd be worth, if you don't mind, asking Jacob what he thinks would be a good signal.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And get back to me on that. Let him have that input in it, because I'm sure what he thinks Joshua will probably be fine with, and the other kids. But yeah.
At school, he literally turns a card over.
Yeah.
And nobody else needs to,
No, you don't. They don't want you to make a big thing, do they?
And then
That's
turn the music down.
yeah.
He's writing down.
I mean, the other thing it suddenly crosses my mind you could do is if we've got a pair of headphones available, ear-defender type things in those rooms. So if there is something that you know is going to be loud, you can offer that child, would you like to do that, or would you like to, assuming we've got our space set up, would you rather be in there for this bit, so that they feel in control,
And in terms of quieting a room down, if someone's made that signal as well, we need to think about not blowing a whistle and making noise.
How quiet noise is a horrible noise.
Yeah.
Especially if it's really loud instrument.
Yeah.
Works universally, but actually it makes the problem so much worse for a child that's struggling with
Yeah.
music. And let me add a really quick loud noise.
Yeah,
Into
yeah.
Overload already. Montgomery used to do the hands, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, yeah. I was just thinking that though, to be fair, I always did that in school. I did something with my hand because I used to, in my crazy days when I was actually in school, used to teach composition to like 30 children at a time. And actually, you arm 30 kids with percussion instruments and, there's serious potential for anarchy. But I'd just have something going on with my hand that was quiet and they'd stop and they'd copy. And that doesn't need to make a noise either, I mean, you can look a bit of a plum, waving your arms around, but it kind of works because they get the hang of it.
She was the head teacher at Montgomery used to do it. She went to do her hands.
Yeah.
The kids they've joined in by the time she was at her show.
Yeah, the kids do get really good at that sort of thing. So that might be another good thing to think about, how we quieten our groups.
I went to parent evening and all of the kids were making the noise and all that, and their teacher came in and she just said 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could hear a pin drop. I tried it at home, it didn't work.
I had that one holiday club actually. It was the last one we did of those one-day ones, because I remember you were there, and there was a group where, due to some sort of administrative nightmare, they'd randomly put, I think, 10 and 11-year-old boys together and one little girl. And they came in the prayer room ready to bounce off the walls, and I just put my hand out and went, "No, you don't." And they sat down. Yeah. You did, yeah. And they were all boys apart from Alana. Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was, but it is doable if you think about it. And if we're aware that, as I say, noise definitely came out as a thing that it's an issue for lots. But for children at this church, it is going to be an issue. And in all fairness, the fact that they now go straight to their groups helps, because we can control that. And you can't control the volume of the drummer, however much I love him, you just have to, tell him to shush, he's not going to, is he? Because he plays drums, so that's not how that works. Yeah. But, we have got the potential to bring about a real positive change. So, I hope that's something, I hope at the end of this, my hope is you've got some thoughts, you can see where we're trying to go. Yeah, and any questions or any concerns or anything you have about going there, please talk to us about them. Yeah, because I just think we could make it a much, much better experience. Yeah, I really do. And I think you're all awesome for coming as well. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed. And that's me done.
No, thanks, Jill. That's been amazing. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate that you've all attended. And thank you, Jill, for tonight. It's been incredible. But yeah, do speak to Jill or speak to me.
What you
Email
need to
me.
do, send an email and put my email address on it.
Yes. Yes. If you give me permission,
I
will
do.
send
I've
you
just
all
done that.
Jill's email.
Can you be explicit as well? Just so that everyone knows when you get
Yeah.
responses, by the way.
Yeah.
Can you send this to me?
Sean's got it already, but I can.
Yeah, you'll need to send it to me, guys. Who are you? No, thank you. That's really good. And if anyone does, if that's kind of pulled on any heartstrings or something you feel you want to do, if you want to do that on top of what you're doing now, or if you kind of feel that's something you want to do, or
Because to have the safe space, we need people to staff it, obviously. Yeah, I'm happy to be involved with that, but not this next month because I'm running a group of teenagers. So yeah, it's all just fair. But yeah, thank you very much
yeah,
indeed
thank
for
you
your
all for
time.
coming. Really appreciate
You are
it.
free to disappear whenever you want.
You can run like the wind. If I could just ask if you move the chair, if you could just put it back to wherever you found
Because
it.
we'll get told off. Because
So I
this
don't
was
get
all.
trouble. That'd be great. Thank you very much. Biscuits aren't they? No.
This is the red. No, it's not actual school.